seems like there's a lot of anger out there over um, with people, whether you should be a vegan or whether you should be a carnivore or which the best way to eat. And I always say everyone's different, but I'm going to tell you because I've done them all. I've tested pretty much everything, every diet there is on me, and I've done it for a good 6 week period to see what it would do, and then I get my blood work done. So I know what food does to my body, and I know how my body's changed since I in my 20s I was paying attention till now in my 60s still paying attention, and it's very different. And the main thing that's different is my macros. So I want to talk about vegan and keto. My diet I would describe mostly as keto, but I want to kind of relate it to carnivore also. And carnivore has one rule, basically: eat meat. Vegan also basically has one rule, and that is don't eat meat. Don't eat animal products. So it's a lot easier, in my opinion. Well, I don't see how I could be wrong on this one. It's a lot easier to mess up a vegan diet because just because you're not eating meat or animal products does not mean you're not eating junk. And if you do something like a carnivore diet, for me, my macros need to be, and I'm not, you'll see as I go through this, I'm not making an argument for one or the other. You guys know that I'm more of a keto carnivore type person, and that's what works best for me. Do I always do it? No. I'll switch to vegan once in a while to give my body a change. But with the carnivore and that one rule, it's easier to follow it. It's hard to be carnivore for me, strict carnivore for more than a couple weeks because I want to get some carbs. You can also mess up keto. It's not as easy to mess up keto as it is vegan, but age matters. So we're talking about someone who's in their 60s right now. I need to keep my carbs low. That's not so easy to do if you're on a vegan diet. So here's how I did vegan. And I got my macros in the right place. My macros, I try to keep my carbs around 50 every day. It's easy to do if you're doing carnivore. If you're doing keto, it's obviously the rule is the main rule with keto is you're going to minimize your carbohydrates, which works best for me now at my age. It never would have worked when I was in my 20s, early 20s playing football. I would have passed out because I needed a lot more carbs. Keto would not have worked for me back then, but it does now. So my macros, let's talk about macros first, because for me, no matter what I do, whether it's vegan or whatever diet I choose, I need to keep my macros where my body likes it. So that's around 50 grams of carbs. I may go up to maybe 75 grams of carbs, and I may go down to maybe 25 grams of carbohydrates. So that's the first macronutrient. The next, protein. My body likes 150 grams of protein, 175 grams of protein a day. So I need that. Now, that's also, you got to pay attention and know what you're doing to get that much protein if you're doing a vegan diet. So I fill in the rest with fats. After I get my 150, 175 grams of protein and my 50 grams of carbohydrates, the rest is fat, and my calories are coming in at about 2,000, 1,800 to 2,000 at a high number. So how do let me speak to vegan real quick first on my macros. How do you get your carbs down? around 50? Well, first I ate vegetables like spinach and things like that. Not a whole bunch, but I ate leafy greens and things like that. I did not eat fruit when I did vegan. So, my protein, what did I do with my protein? Well, to do vegan, in my opinion, and make it healthy, you need to get all the essential amino acids. That's not so easy to do if you're doing vegan because plant proteins don't have the same amino acid profile as animal products do. First, you need the branched chain aminos. That's leucine, isoleucine, and valine. About 2-to-1 leucine over isoleucine and valine. And when you eat a meal, I want to get at least 30, prefer 50 grams of protein in a meal. So how did I do that being vegan? A really good vegan-based or plant-based protein powder, all organic, that had the amino acid profile on the package, on the jar or the tub or whatever you want to call it. And so I could read, okay, this has leucine, isoleucine, and valine in the right proportion, and it has all the essential amino acids. So I pounded that to get my protein up to 150 or so, 125 to 150, because I also supplemented with essential amino acids. Essential amino acids, you guys go watch some of my other videos. I talk about them all the time and what my strategy is with protein and amino acids. So I supplemented with amino acids. Also, amino acids, to me, essential amino acids are an insurance policy to make sure I'm getting everything my body wants to create the protein change that it wants. So now, how did I get my calories up? How did I get my calories up to 1,800, 2,000? Just eating some leafy greens and some plant-based protein, seeds and nuts, almonds. I would eat, now some nuts and seeds have higher amounts of carbohydrates, but I would eat pumpkin seeds, again, very high in protein and high in fat and high in fiber. So I was actually getting much more fiber and easier to get the fiber on the vegan diet than I was on the carnivore, which I've also done, or the keto. So pumpkin seeds, almonds, things like that, choose the right ones for you. And now I had my macros and my calories exactly where I wanted doing vegan. It's not easy. You guys hear me say this all the time. I'm not bashing being a vegan, and a lot of people have other reasons for being vegan. You know, they don't want to eat animal products. But just because you're a vegan doesn't mean you can't eat junk. If you're going to be strict carnivore, you're going to be a carnivore. You're not going to eat junk. You're not. What I mean by junk is pie and candy and cookies and donuts. Vegan, you can eat foods that aren't healthy and not break the rules of the diet. The other thing, you take someone like me doing vegan, I could get my macros way out of whack because I can eat all the carbohydrates I want. If I'm doing vegan, I can eat all the fruit I want, I can eat all the starches I want, and I can put my carbohydrates through the roof, and I'm still on a vegan diet. That would not be good for my health. If I did that, my glucose would shoot up. I'd be a mess in 2 weeks. I know I would because I'm always testing my body. I'm always testing what I'm eating to see what it does to my body. And I know what would happen to my glucose because I test it every day, usually twice, and with multiple monitors. So when I did the vegan, if you guys have listened to some of my other things on each of my channels and You know that when I got my blood work checked, it was excellent. It was as good as when I do carnivore or keto. Now let's talk about keto real quick. What keto is all about is low carbohydrates. That does not mean you can't eat unhealthy food. There's something called dirty keto, which means you're eating processed foods and you're eating junk that's just not high carbohydrate. So just because you're doing keto does not mean you can't mess it up, because you can. Doing keto, it's got to be clean keto, which means your carbohydrates are low. And when you're doing keto, usually you're going to get enough protein because your diet's going to be more heavily weighed toward the protein. But the whole thing about keto is getting fats, but you got to get quality, healthy fats. Monounsaturated fats is what I lean on a lot. MCT oil is great. You can put it in your coffee. MCT oil is a saturated fat that comes from coconut oil. It's a medium chain triglycerides. It's a medium chain, and your brain loves it. It's good for energy, and MCT oil is great. I focus mostly on monounsaturated fat, which is um, olive oil, and I'll take, swigs of olive oil, before I eat, each time I'm going to eat. And then you want to make sure you get omega-3s on either diet. It's easier if you're doing carnivore to get your omega-3s and the monounsaturated fat. And saturated fat, in my view, gets a really bad rap. And most of the things that have saturated fat in them have more monounsaturated fat, like an egg. An egg has more monounsaturated fat in it than it does saturated fat. So it's easier to get a lot of the nutrients doing keto or carnivore, but it's also easy if you're getting the right vegetables and so on, and seeds and nuts if you're doing vegan. So that's the importance. You can be successful with either, but everyone's different. As you know, I always say everyone's different. You got to figure this out for yourself. And people have their biases. It's either vegan, it's keto, it's carnivore. And these people with these biases, I have my biases too. It's toward the protein diet, the animal-based protein. But when you're listening to influencers on social media, realize they have their biases, whether it's a doctor or someone that's just a strict vegan. And that's what they believe in, and that's what's working for them. I believe that both can work long term, but you got to be really careful with the vegan diet. You need to get enough protein. That's not easy. And you need to keep, if you're older like me, you need to keep your carbohydrates down. That's not easy on a vegan diet. So getting your macros right, getting your calories right is important, and you got to figure it out for yourself. Now, what do? I switch back and forth. I'll go carnivore for maybe a week and a half. That's about as long as I can really stand it. And then I'm back to keto, which for me at my age and where I am in this time in life, about 50 grams of carbohydrates are best for me. I do eat some blueberries and so on. But I'll also switch over to plant-based, and I'll do that now that I've done it for 6 weeks and I know that my blood work is really good. I'll switch over to a vegan diet for a week or two, just like I do with carnivore. And I think that kind of gives my body flexibility, and it works great for me. And everything that I talk about here, I'm relating it to me and what works for me, and talking about my blood work and my body composition and how I feel. So it's my opinion based on what works for me at my age. And I just think everyone should do that. You can't just listen to every doctor. You can't just listen to every nutritionist or every health and fitness influencer out there on what they do. Their biases are geared towards what's worked for their clients and what works for them. But that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So I hope this kind of tells you where I stand on this and encourages you to try something for yourself. If you guys have questions about what I do, as always, leave them in the comment section. If you guys, I love hearing your stories about why vegan is important to you, why it works for you, or why carnivore works for you, or why it didn't. So put all those in the comment section. I'll always try to be as honest as possible about what works for me and give you my opinion. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm not telling anybody that they have to listen to me or my way is the best, but I know my way, what I've got figured out, is best for me, and I'll tell you what that is. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.